皆さんこんにちは。 UFO チューバーの三浦徹です。今年の夏は7月のワスベプラハの弾丸ツアー、8月は韓国ジェジュの金管コンクールと本当に大忙しでした。海外の吹奏楽とユーフォニアムシリーズその4、今回はワスベプラハ大会のリプリー会長のお話と私のプレゼンを字幕付きでご視聴ください。ジェームズ・リプリーさんはイーストマン音楽学校のご出身、ハンズバーガー指揮のイーストマンウィンドアンサンブルジャパンツアーに副指揮者として同行。岡山の倉敷でのバンドクリニックで指導者としての腕を見込まれ、その後倉敷作陽大学の吹奏楽の指導を10年間務められました。日本の吹奏楽にもお詳しいリプリーさんにワスベと日本の吹奏楽についてお話ししていただきました。
So I think it is going to be a wonderful time in Praha with our WASBE conference this year. You know, as we rotate and strive to have our conferences throughout the world, sometimes it's been very fortunate to be in Europe, but it's also important for us to be able to have our conferences in Asia and also in the Americas. So actually our next conference will be in Seoul, Republic of Korea, which we're very excited about. But here we are really in the center of Europe, and the music making of this city has been so remarkable for so many years, and to bring our wind band community here to this national capital of music is very exciting. And we have some wonderful performers that are coming to be with us, and we have wonderful clinicians that are coming. And as I got on the plane today, I was just reminded about just the miracle of air travel and how it makes the world a smaller place. And now we can bring people from all over the world to share in the music here in the Czech Republic, which is just a remarkable city. So one of the very unique things about the WASBE conference is it brings the study of the wind band to the musicians and to the conductors, and also to the music industry and business. It's really a chance for us to think about the advancement of music and wind band music in particular, and the study of that. That could be the study of conducting. It could be the study of the music, the repertoire. It could be the study of a very special kind of music that is new, and something that we're looking at now is just the diversity that is available to us in the wind band world, to really look at all of the different places around the world and the people that write music and the exciting differences that there are, but to still always look for the music that is the artistic side of our genre. The honoring of a tradition is very important to WASBE, and we want to always make sure that that is a part of our conferences as well, whether we're looking at, again, the music of Mozart, whether we're looking at the marches of John Philip Sousa, whether we're looking at the music of Percy Grainger. All of those things are very important to WASBE, but it's the study of the advancement of the art that is really important. And one of the things that I really like is how we're looking to spark the imagination of the players, to spark the imagination of the conductors. And that's really what WASBE tries to do with our conferences, is to bring an imaginative approach as we advance wind band music. So I was so fortunate to spend 10 years in the early 2000s as a part of a wind band program, a music program at Kurashiki Sakyo University. And that came from my time at Eastman, where I was able to do a clinic when the wind ensemble was on tour, and met the marvelous teachers and also the students there. And what I was able to gather from that was really the heart and soul of the Japanese people, the Japanese band, and how important it was to have the relationship of things like the senpai and kohai and the working together to make something very special and very important and something that they could really be proud of. And to shape those things over the years was something that I really found very, very fortunate and made me a much better musician. I should say that I thought I had a really good sense of timing in my own personal rhythm until I went to Japan. And then I realized that there is so much that I could learn about really, really the wonderful sense of pulse, the sense of ma, so that everything has a place. And so that was very important to me. And now, as I look back at that, I'm so happy to see things that, for example, for a few years, the Japan Wind Ensemble Conductor Conference was happening in the country. But throughout the country, I think there is an opportunity to look at WASBE as something that can not only help them in their development of the Japanese ensembles and the Japanese bands and Japanese students, but also to look at a wider range of the kinds of music that might be available to play and be able to come to another level of understanding about the different kinds of music that are available. And still now, I just love to be able to see the kinds of resources that WASBE brings. And there's a great opportunity for everyone to be in Seoul, in the Republic of Korea, in a couple of years now, where we will once again be in Asia for the conference. And there will certainly be a strong representative there from Korea. But we know that all of the Asian bands will have an opportunity, because of their closeness, to be able to come and perform. And we certainly hope that that will invite many more Japanese to come and be a member of WASBE. I think that's a wonderful opportunity. So I think as we look to the future around the world, but also in Japan, the sense of bringing people together will always be the thing that makes the music happen. And I know that as, again, the system of instruction with the sensei, and then also the kohai and the senpai, allows for that to happen in a very powerful way that is not happening all the way through the world. And I think that that's a very important thing to keep in mind going forward, is that sense of bringing people together. But the music, as it happens, will only be able to be appreciated and felt deeply if it's performed at the highest level. There has to always be a sense that the music comes, and that part of an amateur can be very important as they develop and reach a high standard. We have to be careful that the competition doesn't become the only thing, so that students and amateurs feel like they're not attaining an appropriate level, but continuing to develop and continuing to make better music for themselves and for the people that are in the group. I think that's a very important thing to take. Those concepts in Europe where I look at the music as being very fine, and usually I think of it sometimes as more functional, if it's a parade band or if it's a city band. But all of those musicians love playing together. In the United States, we do have largely students in an educational system that work together, but because of the development of so many different students in different layers, then sometimes that the study becomes less advanced in some of the younger groups, but that's also because of the way the system works, and the students are there as part of a class. One of the things with Japan being able to rehearse on a weekend or in a club activity gives them a lot more time to focus on some things. So with the future coming together with true music making of the highest level, and to have the people playing together is really the center to developing the next layer. And I think there will always be a place for competition as it goes to develop that higher level, but that doesn't mean that the students can't also feel very good about how they are progressing and making music in that rehearsal process. And that's one of the things that I think will always make a big difference in developing the bands, is so that the students know that they are developing and they're trying to meet a standard, but they're also advancing. So those things I think are very important going forward.
今年の4月、東京厚生ウィンドオーケストラは一般社団法人となり、創立以来のスポンサー、立正厚生会から独立したプロの楽団として再出発しました。1980年代、90年代、そして2000年代の音楽活動を通じて世界に高く評価される吹奏楽団に導いていただいたマエストロ・フェネルに心からの尊敬と感謝の念を込めてお話をさせていただきました。I'm thankful for the opportunity to talk about Maestro Frederick Fennell and his Tokyo Kosei Wind Orchestra. It was my privilege to be the Japanese host who had the closest contact with our maestro from 1973 to 2004. I first encountered Maestro Fennell at the first TUBA Tuba Symposium at the Indiana University in May 1973. I asked him, "Are you Mr. Fennell, the director of bands at the University of Miami?" He responded angrily, "No, I am Dr. Frederick Fennell, conductor of the University of Miami Wind Ensemble." That expresses what a musician and strong personality he had, doesn't it? He was the maestro. The second time I met him was in March 1982, when he came to Japan as guest conductor for the Tokyo Kosei Wind Orchestra subscription concert. His look was as shown in this photo, wearing a unique fashion shirt. The Kosei musicians, completely enchanted by the maestro's musical style, followed him like brooms following Mickey Mouse in The Sorcerer's Apprentice. After rehearsals, they would follow him in droves to have a beer. We all became like Fennell's enchanted brooms. Boom, boom, boom. The third time I met the maestro was at the International Tuba Euphonium Conference in Washington, D.C. in June 1983. The photo you see is of the Tokyo Bari Tuba Ensemble, an ensemble of 8 euphoniums and 8 tubas from Japan, lined up in front of the U.S. Capitol building. At this international convention, Fennell conducted a large ensemble of hundreds of tuba euphoniums. Almost every night, we spent time in Fennell's room talking about Japanese wind bands and Tokyo Kosei Wind Orchestra. In January 1984, Maestro Fennell became the chief conductor of the Tokyo Kosei Wind Orchestra. In this year, Maestro Fennell took a break from the Interlaken Music Camp in Michigan, which he had attended every year, to spend 9 months with us in Japan. He stayed in a small condominium owned by Rissho Kosei Kai, a few minutes walk from our rehearsal place. For meals, a sushi bar restaurant and a Chinese restaurant are 100 steps away. Maestro loved the menu shown in these photos and drank Japanese beer, always. Maestro Fennell initially planned to reform the Japanese wind band repertoire in the Fennell style by bringing a large amount of his own sheet music from the United States. However, while the WASBE conventions in 1989 and 1995 and the Tokyo Kosei Wind Orchestra subscription concerts featured important works for wind ensembles as desired by the maestro, the professional performance activities of the Kosei did not always go according to the maestro's wishes. The wind orchestra's role was not always as he wished it to be. Tokyo Kosei Wind Orchestra is a professional wind orchestra, and as such, we are requested to provide programs that meet the needs of various organizers. This means educational purposes, entertainment elements, and content for the sponsors' followers. Kosei's role was to perform for educational purposes to set a good example for school bands, for entertainment to entertain music fans, and for religious services of the RKK, Rissho Kosei Kai, our sponsor. The Kosei also has a very wide range of concerts and recordings for wind band enthusiasts and lovers. Among the maestro's own scores, besides Holst, Granger, Schembel, Hindemith, Ingolf Dahl, and Karel Husa, etc., they were full of precious items with Fennell's own thoughts and feelings, with detailed writing for each part. For now, I would like to talk about Kosei's sponsorship, Rissho Kosei Kai, RKK. In April of this year, Tokyo Kosei Wind Orchestra decided to develop its activities independently from Rissho Kosei Kai, which is one of the leading lay Buddhism organizations in Japan. This is my understanding on the situation, but it was the result of the difficult times of the pandemic over the past 3 years, when the Tokyo Kosei's performance activities were also limited, and it became difficult to continue to support them financially. Looking back, in the early 1980s, Rissho Kosei Kai, RKK, was subjected to media coverage of preferential tax treatment for religious organizations. At that time, there was a proposal to make the wind orchestra a group of young musicians independent of Rissho Kosei Kai, RKK. It was at that time that Maestro Fennell came to us. The maestro stressed to us, the young musicians, the importance of sponsorship and to improve our performances at the religious events on Sunday morning. In fact, the quality of the performances of the J.S. Bach Toccata and Fugue and the Shostakovich's Festival Overture at 8 a.m. in the morning dramatically after Fennell became the chief conductor. In particular, the Song of Risho Koseikai, RKK, sung by 5,000 believers, was amazing, and the leaders of the Risho Koseikai, RKK, began to value the wind orchestra more and more. I remember well the singing of the believers in the Fumonkan and the cathedral, with their mouths open wide and singing with all their might. Maestro Fennell's conducting was like magic. He was charismatic. Let's talk about how Fennell creates his ensembles. The maestro's vision of musical performance is always to let the space resonate. Let the space resonate. Let the space resonate. Also, notes are made up of three parts: the attack, the length, and the end of the note. The attack, the length, and the end of the note. Wind ensembles in particular use air, which cannot be seen, to create sound, allowing the attack, set the length, and the echo at the end of the note. Most wind ensembles focus on aligning the attack and the exact length of the notes, but Fennell concentrates on making the end of the note sound beautiful too. Release together. Release together. Fennell was also a conductor with specialized requirements for the use of percussion instruments. In particular, he tuned the bass drum himself, giving instructions on pitch and even how to play it. When he became our chief conductor, he brought with him a beater that he had made himself for beating the bass drum, and demanded that the bass drummer to play with his beater. According to the maestro, the bass drum is not just an instrument that you hit to make a sound. It is a mid-bass instrument that retains its resonance the longest. In an ensemble of wind instruments, which can only resonate as long as they are breathed into, the most effective way to make them resonate is to use the percussion instruments to their advantage. Among the phrases the maestro often uses in rehearsal, feel the space between the notes. Feel the space between the notes. More spacing, more spacing. Wait for the next note to keep the space between the notes. Wait for the next note to keep the space between the notes. Wakete mate. It's in Japanese. Wakete mate. Separate and wait. Separate and wait. Wakete mate. Wakete mate. Aida. Aida is not the name of the opera. Aida is space in Japanese. Aida. It is Fennell's basis of ensemble technique to create a superb performance that resonates the space whole. Kosei's performance activities are diverse. First, subscription concerts are held on a regular basis. There are also special concerts such as pop and jazz concerts, new wind band repertoire concerts, and All Japan Band Contest required music concerts for teachers and students. School concerts for elementary, junior high, and senior high school students focused on wind music appreciation, which is an important educational program requested and supported by the national and local governments. We would visit 3 schools a day to give live performances to students. Some of these local performance tours were as long as 10 days. Especially since Maestro Fenero became our chief conductor, the programs and performances have been enriched. And although it was a grueling tour for us, the musicians, our ability as a professional wind group improved dramatically. This improvement was not only in fancy concert halls, but also in school gymnasiums located in the mountains. Anyway, for Maestro Fenel, the performance content was the same for ladies and gentlemen at the subscription concert as for elementary and junior high school students in the mountains. And he threw himself into the performance with all his might. We learned the most important thing in performing music from Maestro Fenel. He never cut corners. He never cut corners. That is, no matter what the circumstances, music performance should be performed with sincerity. Music is sincerity. Music is sincerity. According to the All Japan Band Association, there are about 15,000 amateur wind bands in Japan. In addition, there are other wind bands affiliated with public offices, such as the Self-Defense Force Bands of the Japan Ground, Maritime, and Air, and the police and fire department bands. Influenced by the development of Fenel and the Kosei, professional wind bands are also becoming more active. These include the Osaka Shion Wind Orchestra, the Siena Wind Orchestra, and the Tokyo Wind Symphony Orchestra. There are many freelance musicians who graduate from music colleges in Tokyo, Osaka, Nagoya, and Fukuoka. These professional wind bands come from a variety of backgrounds, some full-time, some part-time. But the success of Fenel and the Kosei has certainly ignited them and given them momentum. The Fenel influence can be seen in the style, instrumentation, and the stage setting of their performances. As the saying goes, if Fenel hadn't founded Eastman Wind Ensemble, the band would still be just a library parade on the streets. If Fenel hadn't founded Eastman Wind Ensemble, the band would still be just a library parade on the streets. It is a well-known fact that Maestro Fenel is a musician who developed, defined, and advanced the wind band. The certain trail left by Fenel and the Tokyo Kosei Wind Orchestra has been carried on by these professional bands. Tokyo Kosei Wind Orchestra under Maestro Fenel conducted the following concerts and recordings from 1982 to 2002. Subscription concert 25. Special concert 221. School concert 282. RKK 美少構成会 Religious Service 106. CD and LP recording 54 title. European tour June, July in 1989. Swiss tour September in 1993. Millennium concert in Taiwan December, January in 1999 and 2000. And finally, Midwest Band Clinic final concert on December 18 and 19, 2002. It was our farewell concert under conducting of Maestro Frederick Fennell. Thank you very much. Dekui. ご視聴ありがとうございました。次回は韓国ジェジュ最終島で行われた金管楽器の国際コンクールの様子、ミードさんやチューバの審査員のお話も伺います。ぜひご視聴ください。ありがとうございました。